His parents stayed on the phone for 47 minutes. Then they heard one final sound: silence. Brandon Swanson was never seen again. He told his parents he was walking toward nearby lights. They stayed on the line, guiding him home. Then his parents heard him suddenly shout, followed by complete silence. The call never explained what happened. May 13th, 2008 was supposed to be a good night. It was the last day of classes at Minnesota West Community and Technical College in Canby, Minnesota. 19-year-old Brandon Swanson had just finished a one-year program in wind energy technology. A quiet, practical kid with curly brown hair, glasses, and a reputation for being responsible. The kind of son who called his parents. The kind of student whose biggest weekend plans involved celebrating with friends, not vanishing without a trace. Brandon had grown up in Marshall, a small town in rural Lynd County in the flat farmland of southwestern Minnesota. He'd graduated high school there in 2007 and stayed close to home for one more year before his next big step. He'd already been accepted to a college in Iowa, more than 250 miles away. He was excited about it. He had plans. People who build plans for the fall don't usually disappear in the spring. That night, he joined friends at a small gathering in Canby to mark the end of the semester. There was drinking involved. His family has never denied that. But by every account, Brandon wasn't dangerously intoxicated. He was coherent. He was himself. Sometime around 1 in the morning, Brandon decided to head home. The drive from Canby to Marshall normally takes about 30 minutes on the main highway, but for reasons that have never been fully explained, Brandon didn't take the highway. He chose back roads instead, a tangle of unmarked gravel routes that wind through farmland with little to no lighting and almost no landmarks after dark. It was on one of those back roads, sometime after midnight, that Brandon's car left the road and slid into a ditch. He wasn't hurt. He got out, checked his surroundings, and did exactly what you'd expect a responsible 19-year-old to do. He called his parents. Brian and Annette Swanson picked up the phone in the middle of the night to hear their son's voice, calm, a little embarrassed, but fine. He told them he'd driven into a ditch. He wasn't injured. He just needed a ride. Then he told them where he thought he was. He believed he was near Lynd, a small town just northwest of Marshall, a place he knew well, close to home, close to familiar roads. His parents didn't hesitate. They got in their truck immediately and started driving toward Lynd, keeping their son on the phone the entire time, trying to close the distance between his location and theirs. What none of them knew yet, what wouldn't become clear until the sun came up, was that Brandon was wrong about where he was, not by a little, by miles. And the next 47 minutes would become one of the most studied, most haunting phone calls in the history of American missing persons cases. What followed was not a short call for help. It was a sustained, nearly hour-long search conducted entirely over a phone line, in the dark, between a son who didn't know where he was and parents who were desperately trying to find him. Brian and Annette drove to the area near Lynd, where Brandon believed he was stranded. They flashed their truck's headlights into the darkness, again and again, hoping Brandon would see the light and call out. Brandon, on his end, did the same, flashing his own car's headlights, hoping his parents would spot him from the road. Neither one ever saw the other's lights. This detail matters more than it might first seem. In the flat farmland of rural Minnesota, Headlights can usually be seen from a significant distance at night. There's little to block the view. No hills, no dense tree lines in most stretches. If Brandon and his parents were anywhere close to the location he believed he was in, somebody should have seen something. Nobody did. After repeated failed attempts to spot each other, Brandon made a decision that would define the rest of the case. He told his parents he was going to leave his car and walk toward a cluster of lights he could see in the distance. Lights he believed belonged to the town of Lynd, just a few miles from where he thought he'd crashed. He told his father to drive to a specific bar's parking lot in Lynd and wait for him there. Brian agreed and started driving toward it, staying on the phone with his son the entire time, talking him through every step of the walk. For the next several minutes, Brandon described what he saw as he walked. Fields, fences he had to climb over, gravel roads, open farmland stretching out around him in the dark. His voice was steady. He didn't sound panicked. He didn't sound disoriented in any way that alarmed his father. He sounded like someone walking home. Brian kept driving toward the meeting point, listening to his son narrate his progress through the dark Minnesota countryside. A typical late-night ditch story slowly turning into something stranger, minute by minute, with no resolution in sight. Then, at exactly the 47-minute mark of the call, everything changed. Brandon suddenly interrupted himself, mid-conversation, with a single sharp exclamation, "Oh shit," and then nothing. Just you. No scream, no explanation, no sound of a struggle, no crash, no splash, no warning. Just silence on an open line that had been filled with his voice, calm and steady, for nearly an hour. Brian and Annette tried calling him back immediately. The phone rang. Brandon never answered. Not that night, not ever again. By morning, panic had replaced confusion. Brian and Annette tried to report Brandon missing to local authorities almost immediately. According to multiple accounts of the case, the response they got was not urgency. It was a suggestion to wait because young men sometimes go quiet for a night, and it was assumed Brandon might simply turn up on his own. He didn't. Later that same day, investigators pulled Brandon's cell phone records, and what they found turned a confusing night into a genuine mystery. Brandon's phone hadn't been pinging from anywhere near Lynd. The records placed him near a different town entirely, Porter, Minnesota, roughly 25 miles from where his parents had been searching all night, flashing their headlights into a darkness that never once contained their son. 25 miles. Not a small miscalculation. Not a wrong turn down the next street. An entire region away from where Brandon, speaking calmly and coherently, genuinely believed himself to be. It raises a question that has never been fully answered. Did Brandon know he was that far off course? Investigators have never been able to determine whether he was aware of the discrepancy during the call or whether he walked confidently toward lights he believed were Lynd, lights that, in reality, belonged to somewhere else entirely. His car was eventually located near the Yellow Medicine River, a waterway that runs through the area, in places only knee-deep, in others nearly 15 feet. Investigators' first working theory was straightforward. Brandon, walking in the dark, disoriented, possibly impaired by the cold and the hour, had fallen into the river and drowned. Search and cadaver dogs combed the riverbanks for weeks. They found nothing. As time went on, that drowning theory began to lose support. If Brandon had gone into the river that night, investigators reasoned, his body should have surfaced somewhere downstream, Rivers don't typically hold remains indefinitely. Years of searching the waterway turned up no physical evidence whatsoever. No clothing, no remains, nothing. Search efforts expanded dramatically. Over the following years, more than 120 square miles of farmland, fields, and waterways were searched on foot, by air, and with cadaver dogs. One of the largest search efforts in Minnesota history for a single missing person. Some landowners restricted access during planting and harvest seasons, leaving gaps in the search that to this day have never been fully closed. Brandon Swanson's cell phone, investigators noted, remained powered on and reachable for 2 more days after he vanished, until May 16th. Then it too went silent. No trace of Brandon Swanson has ever been found. Not his body, not his belongings, not a single confirmed clue as to what happened after he said 2 words and the line went dead. 18 years later, the case of Brandon Swanson remains one of the most studied unsolved disappearances in modern American true crime, not because of a lack of theories, but because nearly every theory runs into the same wall. Foul play has never been ruled out, but investigators found no physical evidence of an attack anywhere along Brandon's path. No signs of a struggle, no blood, nothing consistent with abduction in an area that, by Brandon's own description on the phone, consisted of open fields and gravel roads with essentially no other people around. The drowning theory, once the leading explanation, has weakened over the years, specifically because no remains were ever recovered from the river or the surrounding waterways, despite exhaustive, repeated searches across more than a decade. The theory that Brandon staged his own disappearance runs into an even simpler problem. It doesn't fit the available facts. He was excited about starting school in Iowa that fall. He stayed on the phone with his father, coordinating a meeting point for nearly an hour. Behavior almost impossible to reconcile with someone planning to vanish on purpose. A medical event, a fall, a seizure, sudden disorientation in the cold, remains one of the only theories that fits both the abrupt nature of his final words and the total absence of evidence. But even that explanation has never been confirmed by a single physical clue in 18 years of searching. What's left is a single mystery, frozen at the exact moment Brandon said, "Oh shit," and the line went dead. This case did leave one lasting mark. In 2009, the Minnesota legislature passed what's now known as Brandon's Law, requiring police to immediately begin investigating reports of missing adults, rather than assuming someone simply wandered off on their own. Brian and Annette Swanson stood beside the governor as he signed it. Their fight to change how missing adult cases are handled has, by official accounts, helped other families get faster action in the earliest, most critical hours of a disappearance. The hours Brandon's family didn't get. For years afterward, the Swansons kept their porch light on every single night, a quiet signal kept burning long after most families would have given up in case their son ever found his way back to it. He never has. Somewhere in the farmland of southwestern Minnesota, in a stretch of fields and fences, Brandon Swanson once described step by step to his father over the phone. The answer to what happened that night is still out there. Nobody has found it yet. To this day, Brandon Swanson has never been found. What happened during those final seconds remains one of America's greatest missing person mysteries.